Number 1 says, out of a survey of 1,000 households, 460 had at least one dog or cat as a pet. What is the ratio of pet owners to households? So if you recall, a ratio is a comparison of two quantities, and the two quantities in this case are the number of households to the number of dogs or cat owners. So we want households, or sorry, it says what is the ratio of pet owners to households? So we want pet owners over households. And they give us 460 pet owners, and they give us 1,000 households. And if you put 460 divided by 1,000 in your calculator and press math, enter, enter, it will give you the reduced fraction of 23 over 50. Number 4, they give us an extended ratio of the angles of a triangle, 4 to 6 to 8. If you remember, 4 to 6 to 8 obviously doesn't represent the angle measures of the triangle. It represents 4 times some greatest common factor, 6 times some greatest common factor, and 8 times some greatest common factor. Our job is to find the greatest common factor, x. Once we find the greatest common factor, we can then find the measure of each angle of the triangle by plugging that greatest common factor back in to each of these angle measures. So if you recall, the sum of the three angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. So we would take angle 4x, add it to angle 6x, add it to angle 8x, and those should all have a sum of 180 degrees. We're going to combine our like terms, 4x, 6x, and 8x. That's going to give us 18x equals 180. Divide by 18. So x is 10. But in the problem, it didn't ask us for x. It asked us to find the measure of each angle of the triangle. So now that we found x, we want to take that value, that's our greatest common factor, and substitute it in for each of those angle measures. 4 times 10 is 40, 6 times 10 is 60, and 8 times 10 is 80. So the measure of each angle is 40 degrees, 60 degrees, and 80 degrees. Number 9. Ella is baking apple muffins for the student council bake sale. The recipe that she uses calls for 2 eggs per dozen muffins, and she needs to make 108 muffins. How many eggs will she need? Well, remember, a proportion is used to make predictions. So in this case, we're using a proportion to figure out how many eggs that Ella will need. Well, the ratio that's going to set up our proportion is the fact that the recipe calls for 2 eggs for every 1 dozen of muffins. So we want to compare eggs to dozen of muffins. Then it says she needs to make 108 muffins. Well, it didn't ask us to compare muffins, it asked us to compare dozens of muffins. So we need to figure out how many dozens of muffins make up 108 muffins. Well, a dozen is 12. And if we have 108 muffins, we divide that 108 by 12, we get the number of dozens that make up 108. So 9 dozens equals 108 muffins. So over here, back to our ratio, setting up our proportion. She needs to make 108 muffins, that is 9 dozen muffins, so we need to estimate or predict x, the number of eggs that she will need. If we cross multiply, we get 2 times 9, which is 18, and that equals 1 times x, which is just x. So Ella will only need 18 eggs to make her 108 muffins, or 9 dozens of muffins.